Wisp Sports Radio, the voice of women in sport.
This is Season 1, Episode 16 of Hockey Talk on Wisp Sports. I'm Shannon Miller, and at Wisp Sports, we believe women in sport deserve equal coverage. I'm delighted to announce my sponsor, Yugo. Yugo is a company started by two women who invented a great product that could be valuable to everyone. Let's hear more about Yugo.
Have you ever thought you had the best protection for your phone only to find it failed? Yugo to the rescue, the only waterproof life jacket for your phone using a dry suit zipper closure. Your phone has full functionality while inside, and best of all, Yugo floats. Use promo code HockeyTalk and check us out at yugowear.com. That is UGOWEAR.com.
In today's episode, I will talk about adversity, diversity, and communication. My guest this week is Karin Lofstrom from Ottawa, Ontario, a former college hockey player and a leader heavily involved in women in sport, specializing in gender equity, diversity, and sport management. Today's sidebar will be about the history that was just made between men's and women's sport at the NHL All-Star Weekend. And this week's drill of the week will be Tactical Continuous, a drill that allows for 2v1s, 2v1, 2-on-0s, 2-on-1s, and 3-on-1s all in one drill, a continuous drill. It'll be posted on my Facebook page at Coach Shannon Miller on Thursday. Thank you for joining me. I'm honored to have my own hockey podcast show on Wisp Sports and to be part of the most popular and influential podcast organization for women in sports globally. Today's podcast is titled Adversity, Diversity, and Communication. As coaches, we are role models, and all of our communication needs to be honest, and this should eventually lead to trust and respect. As coaches, somewhere between 85 and 90% of our feedback needs to be honest, positive, depending on the day, the situation, of course, and the phase of the development that you're in. It's also very important to give honest, corrective feedback when mistakes are made and/or improvement is required. It's simply coaching, trying to help an athlete or team get better. Some players can handle it better than others, but both are required. Vince Lombardi, the famous football coach that won 5 NFL titles in 7 years, he was tagged the world's greatest coach. He said he made many mistakes each season, and at the end of each season, he would have a long list of mistakes to review. What he said his approach was in the off-season, he would reflect on them, take a look at his list and all the mistakes that he made, and his goal was to try to make fewer mistakes the next season. As coaches, this is what we all must do. Encourage all team members to be patient when people make mistakes, because we will all make mistakes. Not just the players, not just the staff, but the coaches too. It's just a matter of time. But over time, the goal is to be patient with one another and make fewer and fewer as you go. Now, coaches, as we know, success and failure are both crucial to the process of growth in relationships and in forming a strong team. A team rarely becomes the best they can be without facing fairly major adversity throughout the course of the season. Encourage players and staff to ask for support when they need it, but not just from the head coach, from each other as well. When problems are identified, the staff, the team, or whoever is appropriate works together to deconstruct the things that are hurting the team. Athletes are preconditioned. Most of it's positive, but some of it isn't, and it has to be deconstructed so it doesn't harm the team in the long run. The same goes for coaches and staff members. Deconstructing requires good intentions, time, and patience by both parties. Now, I coached college hockey for 16 years, NCAA hockey at the University of Minnesota Duluth, and we recruited players from many different countries over the course of those 16 years and had a great deal of success with this international team. People, especially other coaches, talked to me about how difficult it must be to have so many different nationalities on the team. People felt it would divide the team and be very difficult to bring a team together. The truth is, we took the approach of open, honest, and accepting. And this led to learning about each other's differences, really getting to know each other at a much deeper level, and it actually just brought us closer together. There was plenty of common ground between all of us, but the uniqueness of each one was accepted, celebrated, and in the end, it made us a stronger team. We would have potluck dinners where each group would cook a dish from a certain country, they would dress in the garb from that country, and they would do some research and share some interesting facts with the entire team and staff that night about that country. It was fun for them to plan and to host. We knew we were unique, we had great team chemistry, and we loved that about ourselves. Now, coaches, some seasons will fly by with great team chemistry and very few problems. Some seasons will be much more difficult. When you're going through a difficult season, have the difficult conversations. Deal with the egos, the jealousy, the gossip, the lies. Get in there and do the work. Go into it and work your way out. Again, this takes time and willing participation from both parties, but it's worth it. Get to know each other through open, honest conversation. This will allow everyone to go deeper, to get to know other people's intentions, get to know your own intentions as well as learn the intentions of others. And good intentions should be allowed to go a long way. Bad intentions need to be rerouted, nipped in the bud. Give each other passes on mistakes made. It's how people learn and how they grow. It's how we all learn and grow. It's how teams get to know each other at a deeper level, how they learn to respect each other, and everyone deserves that. Things will happen on your team, but once they are over, they are over. Try to get everyone to move on and live in the present. You can do this by setting common goals for the now and creating a plan together on how to make the future you all want together and how to make that future a reality. It's also a good idea to introduce some fun team time anytime you're going through difficult times. For example, in hockey, if you're going through a difficult time on the ice, you're not winning as much as you'd like to, or in any sport, your team chemistry just isn't what it needs to be. Start introducing more fun team time, team building activities, and just anything that you think the athletes would enjoy. Becoming a strong, successful team is a process. The process takes time. Trust in the process. Today's sidebar, a moment in history for NHL hockey, women's hockey, and all sport. This past Friday night, during the men's NHL All-Star Weekend in San Diego, Kendall Coyne made history by being the first female to participate in the NHL Skills Showcase. Kendall Coyne competed in the fastest skater competition, achieving an amazing time of 14.346 seconds. Kendall, who is 5'2" and 125 pounds of explosive energy, unleashed her speed and confidence to finish 7th, to own the moment, and to make history. A shout out to Kendall Coyne and a step towards equality in the game of hockey. Another woman who has led the way, playing college hockey when it first became a letter sport for women at the University of Saskatchewan and now residing in Ottawa, Ontario, is my guest, Karin Lofstrom. Karin and I played college hockey together at the University of Saskatchewan, and then she went on to become the head of the prestigious cause organization, Canadian Advancement Association for Women in Sport. Karin now owns her own business called KL Sports Consulting, specializing in gender equity, diversity, and sports management. Karin and I played college hockey together back in the good old days when there was full body checking, and when Dave King was the coach of the U of S men's team. And our two teams work closely together under the leadership of Lori Bush and Mike Babcock. Welcome, Karin.
Hi, Shannon. Thanks for having me. It's great to be having a chat with you. Before we continue the conversation, I'm just so wanting to congratulate you on your success with these podcasts. They've been going super, and you're doing such a great job and have some very interesting guests. But I think sometimes, your audience doesn't actually know all the details of your accomplishments. So as your, I don't know, maybe it's 30 years or more, 40 years, 30 years we've known each other. I thought it was my job to let your listeners in on a little bit of your background, in case this is the first podcast they've heard of yours. Back in the days, you were the first women's hockey coach at the Olympic level in the world at the 98 Nagano Olympics. I don't know if listeners know, 5-time NCAA hockey champs in 15 years. And that's a record you still hold. But it's amazing. I mean, you've had some other amazing guests, but I don't know that they know the stature of your accomplishments. And as well as your recent winning of the federal trial based on Title IX on sex discrimination case against the UMD. You are a true pioneer, and I'm very proud of all of us folks from Saskatchewan. I'm very proud of all your accomplishments. I have to get those plugs in when I have a chance there.
Thank you, Karen. That's very kind of you. I appreciate that. Well, it's a real pleasure for me to have you on the show. Yes, I believe we've known each other for about 30 years, playing college hockey together. And Karen, something else that's interesting is you gave me my nickname, Killer Miller. And I want to thank you for that. It has stuck with me these 30 years.
Well, it was quite a funny story coming out to hockey practice with no jersey. So there was Shannon out in her hockey pants and her jean jacket with the collar turned up. So we started calling her Killer Miller, and it stuck with you for many years. And you were a little feisty, in your playing days too. So it was quite appropriate.
Yeah, those were the days back in the 80s. So Karen, I was just talking about Kendall Coyne breaking a glass ceiling by her surprise participation and amazing performance in the NHL skills competition just this past weekend. You've been around sport your whole life. What are your thoughts about the glass ceiling?
It's interesting. We're seeing, I'd say, more and more cracks happening in the ceiling. We're getting, more women that are fighting for their rights and moving up their ladders. I mean, I think, recently it's getting more attention kind of with sport is kind of lagging behind into the Me Too movement. But we're seeing, women working hard and being recognized, and we're seeing more women being hired. Often I think some of it, too, is there's a younger generation of male leadership that, were raised by women, their mothers that were working out in the field, were in lots of different fields, and their willingness to hire and promote women. I mean, I think it sure isn't happening as fast as I would like. I mean, I spent 20 years at Cause. Looking at women in leadership in, the sports field, and definitely we often take a few steps forward and then a couple back. So, we haven't cracked the ceiling enough that it's totally fallen down, but definitely making progress, I would say.
Yeah, absolutely. And sometimes we'll take 2 steps forward and 1 step back. That seems to be common with social justice in life, as well as basically gender bias and equality in sport. We'll talk a little bit more about that in our interview. So there have been a few women that have coached in the men's pro games, pro sports. Nancy Lieberman, for example, she was the first female to coach in the NBA. She coached with the Sacramento Kings from 2015 to 2017. There are other women who are presently coaching in the NBA. I'd like to do little shout outs to them. Becky Hammond with the San Antonio Spurs, Jenny Buchek with Dallas Mavericks, Natalie Nakasi with the LA Clippers, Christy Tolliver with the Washington Wizards, and a friend of mine, and she's a new friend of mine. She coaches in the NFL with the San Francisco 49ers. She's been coaching with them since 2017. Katie Sowers is a receivers coach with the San Francisco 49ers, and we met speaking at an equality event in California. Now, we are all aware that there are many men coaching women. In fact, there are more men coaching women than women coaching women. What do you think about women coaching men at any level?
Yeah, I mean, for sure, I think it's great to see these strides of women getting a chance. When, female coaches know their stuff and athletes realize that, these coaches can help them get better, I mean, I think that really opens the door to, that respect being earned and the willingness, to definitely involve more female coaches. We also saw recently at the Australian Open tennis, Amelia Mauresmo, from France. She was coaching Lucas Puel, and he made it to the semifinals. And after, in his interviews, he was praising Emily about her, her coaching ability, and that, women coaches know their stuff, and, more male athletes should be hiring female coaches. I mean, you see these success stories that hopefully will garner, more interest. And, some like in the NBA, these male leading coaches that, have learned that a diversity of a coaching pool will get better results from your team, because every athlete learns a bit differently. So, I mean, I know we're still struggling to get women coaching women's teams, But for sure, there are having some really great stories of women coaching men. I mean, unfortunately, it's still big news because it isn't happening all the time. But I mean, hopefully we'll have more women that are given these opportunities to show their stuff. And I mean, it'll be great, women coaching other men or women. I mean, I think it's a bonus for either one.
Absolutely. And I believe that the younger generation of men are far more open to the idea of equality. And some of them, and some of the ones you've just mentioned, do see the human being as a coach versus a male versus a female. But there are such strong stereotypes and gender bias out there when we just have to keep chipping away at it. And yes, every story is a good story, and it'll be great one day when it's not news, but that's far off. So gender equality. You've got a new business. One of your fortes is gender equality. Gender equality is a view that men and women should receive equal treatment and should not be discriminated against based on gender. Pretty simple. This is the objective of the United Nations Universal Declaration of Human Rights. Now, the NCAA, the governing body in the United States for sport, here's how they explain gender equity, and it's very simple and I love it. An athletics program can be considered gender equitable when the participants in both the men's and women's sports programs would accept as fair and equitable the overall program of the other gender. What that simply says is, as the female coach, the coach of the women's team, you would just say to the coach of the men's team, here, we'll just exchange everything with regards to salaries, budgets, resources, staff, just the entire situation. You just spin the table, you take mine and I'll take yours. And if both coaches would agree to that, we have gender equity. Well, we both know that that rarely exists. It certainly rarely exists in the United States, where I have my experience the last 16 years as a college coach, even though it's a federal law. Title IX is a federal law. What are your thoughts on this, and how does this relate to sport in Canada?
Yeah, I mean, I really like that definition. Just that turning the tables, that's a very, it makes it easy for people to understand. In Canada, I mean, it's interesting. We definitely have some of the same issues, of not having all the opportunities for the female athletes or female teams, female coaches, leaders, that type of thing. And we've seen some more positive changes in the last, 3 years or so in Canada with our change of government and their interest in being gender equitable across, not just sport, across every sector of the population. So they're we're having more discussions around, what does it mean to be gender equitable when government gives out their money to our national sport organizations, like the Hockey Canada, Basketball Canada, Volleyball Canada, organizations like that, having standards in place so that they actually are doing, having gender equitable initiatives. So for coaching, for equipment, for opportunities for competition. I mean, it's interesting because sometimes we find in the women's game, women's sport, we need to play catch up. So we actually have to have, either more equipment or more coaching or more, it really varies. I mean, women don't usually break as many hockey sticks as men. So maybe we need more, equipment that's more suited for women that costs more than the men's game. So trying to figure out, where are those, things that need to be done for women to actually get that opportunity. Maybe it's coaching programs specifically for women, or it's education for the male coaches on how to coach female athletes. But it's at a way better place. I mean, we haven't seen all the benefits yet, but I think that conversations are happening around if you want to receive financial support from the government, you need to be doing more for women in sport. So that is, I spent many years at Cause being the one pushing for this, but now having the government push, they have a lot more clout because they control the money. So that's a real positive step. So hopefully we'll continue to see progressions being made. I mean, some sports are doing it already because it's the right thing to do. And some sports, they need a little bit of push, when their funding is tied to it. That's when they're more likely to actually, get in line.
All sports, one voice, we coach. Tune in to the voice of women coaches on the We Coach podcast. This is Wisp Sports.
So in my last podcast, I had a coach on as a guest. Her name was Carol Hutchins, and she's a softball coach, the most successful NCAA softball coach. And we had a good chat about gender bias. And here's a couple of comments that she made, and then I want to expand on this. What Coach Hutch said was, women need to understand the consequences of gender bias. Once women understand, we can help the men understand. And then we talked about the same qualities that make a male coach great, make a female coach great, because we're simply coaches. Examples: mental toughness, good communication, skilled coaching, obviously knowing the X's and O's of the game, discipline, emotion, focus, energy, confidence, commitment, passion is a big one, and of course, winning. All of those qualities make a great coach, period. Now, Ken Hitchcock, who I've known for a long time, he's now the head coach of the Edmonton Oilers. He did not put skates on until late in his life. He was not a great hockey player. He just played for fun. So he wasn't an elite player, but he did become an elite coach. The last time he won a Stanley Cup, and the only Stanley Cup he won, was in 1991-99 with Dallas. Now, you don't take anything away from a Stanley Cup winner, for sure. But he won in 1999. That was 20 years ago. And he's still a respected coach. And he presently has a job after not coaching for quite some time. He now has a job as the new head coach of the Edmonton Oilers in the NHL. Like I said, I've met Ken. I absolutely respect him as a coach. But women would never be afforded this same respect. Why is that?
It's really a too bad kind of double standard there. I mean, I think, we haven't yet reached the point where kind of generally all women coaches are respected, right? So we're not, so they're not seen the same way. I mean, I think some of there's still, the judgment of, winning NCAA compared to winning in the NHL. If it's a female coach compared to a male coach, they're not seen as the same, the background you need to, the skill set you have to have so that you kind of retain it. But it's interesting because, I mean, I think both men and women, to continue to coach, the technology is changing so much. We need everyone to stay updated on that sense, but it's definitely unfair. I mean, women aren't losing their knowledge of coaching any faster than men are losing it, or, being away from the game for a little bit. And I'd say, any female coach that's wanting to stay in the game is definitely staying current. If they're not coaching, they're still, if it's taking courses or following, working at camps, all kinds of things. So women's game, women's skill level is still staying the same. So I think it still speaks to the level of general respect that we have, or not having as high level for women coaches, which is really unfortunate, because definitely they're putting in just as hard work or more to get top level jobs, because it's so hard to get those pieces for women. I mean, it's still often like we've seen in some cases where as women's sport has improved, more men are willing to coach it. So women are losing their jobs. But yeah, it's really unfortunate that we're not having that same level of respect yet.
Yeah, just like a gentleman like Ken Hitchcock, who was out of the game coaching for a few years, he stayed in the game. He kept his mind sharp. He watched hockey. He stayed up on the current trends, stayed cutting edge, and now here he is back head coaching in the NHL, and hats off to him. I agree with the words that you chose, double standard. There is a double standard. Most female coaches are just not respected like male coaches. It does come back to society and gender bias. And that's unfortunate, and we just have to keep educating women and men and keep moving forward. Now, the Me Too movement, you'd have to be living under a rock to not know about the Me Too movement right now. How is Canada tackling the very important problem of harassment and abuse in sport?
Yeah, we've had some real high-profile cases in the last couple of years of alpine ski coach and swimming coaches and such, that it's come back to the forefront on, what are we going to do about this problem? I mean, it's interesting. We have some kind of a bit of headaches in jurisdiction areas where our federal government oversees the funding that goes to national sport organizations. So there's definitely work at that level to try to see setting up some type of new system to actually be, create a safe sport environment. I mean, initially, sports have been talking about the national organizations creating their own system, but we've seen that that really creates problems with conflict of interest. And if someone at a head of an organization is the person causing the problem, it's hard to go to them, with your complaint. So there's currently actually discussion happening about setting up a third party, potentially organization that would handle complaints, would handle the investigation, would also look at education. So we're having that kind of the knowledge happening at a younger age to try and prevent this kind of stuff. We've seen some good models in some areas of the country. In Quebec, they've started an organization called Sport Aid, and it's this third-party type of idea. So complaints come to them, and they have, I think it's somewhere 15, 20 staff working with them, which is not, it's good and it's bad because it shows there's a need for that type of support for, complaints and such. We need it to be happening at the provincial level because we know, yes, some cases happen at the national sport level, but definitely it's in community provincial sports where there's lots of, issues are coming up as well. And it's harder, to bring things forward because your coach could be your teacher, could be your neighbor, small town, those types of things. So we need some, third-party organization to look after that. There's been some great work done by Sheldon Kennedy. He started an organization called Respect Group. He was the NHL athlete that had been abused and came forward and shared his story. And some great researchers doing work, Gretchen Kerr and Sandy Kirby, that have been leading the work in Canada around the background and best practices around dealing with harassment and abuse. So I think in the next few months, our sport minister, Christy Duncan, who is a real advocate for women in sport, she's a former athlete and coach herself, and just wanting to make a difference in this area because we know it affects so many, girls and, boys, men and women, and either, hurts their experience or pushes them right out of sport. So definitely something that, like we've seen in the States having the issues, it's the same thing in Canada, but I think there's been a lot more effort more recently just trying to figure out what we can be doing to try and make a system that's going to be better for everyone.
Well, and I like that approach. It's like you said, education and prevention is key. I love it. I love what you said about Quebec. They've got 20 people manning the phones, or monitoring the phones would be a better word. And isn't that sad that there needs 20 people? There needs to be 20 people on the phone in Quebec, but isn't that great that they have those people and they're addressing the problem? And yeah, a shout out to Sheldon Kennedy, Sandy Kirby, and folks like that are doing a great job in this area. So Karin, you own your own business now, KL Sports Consulting. Share with us what you're up to now.
Yeah, well, after the 20 years at Cause, and the passion for women in sport hasn't gone away, and diversity and gender equity. Initially I did a few pieces around working on getting more women in leadership, women on boards. So both information around women that want to get on boards and leadership teams, and as well as for organizations if they're looking at recruiting more women. Developed a webinar series for that, as well as a great resource that's available online for free, a female coach mentorship model. It was done in partnership with the Coaching Association, but it was interesting because we've seen lots of different mentorship programs over the years, but this piece looked at first training the mentors before they're working with their mentee coaches, because often we just put someone and say, okay, you're going to be the mentor, but they don't actually have the background or understanding what their role is. So that has been really fun to see, and it's a model that can be used, at the community level or high performance. We had Coach Mel Davidson involved as one of our advisor coaches, so that was great. You can find it at coach.ca. And then more recently, it was in our government, we had been put in the budget $30 million for women in sport, and the sport minister set up an advisory committee to look at what would be the best ways to spend these resources, and I was invited to be on this committee. So that was really interesting, just looking at the priorities. And it's not reinventing the wheel, but what would be the areas that would make the biggest difference in change in women in sport over the next 3 years, starting with the next 3 years. And really different piece of usually been my days at working at Cause was, trying to get money from the government and trying to get the attention on women in sport, to now when they put money aside and then figuring out how to spend it, on leadership development and a lot on this harassment and abuse piece and participation, some research pieces. So it's definitely been fun projects to be involved with. And one out of the piece I thought I was involved with was with the Canadian Paralympic Committee, and they were doing a good job at looking at diversity, kind of an overarching piece. So not kind of one slice of the pie at once. And we were doing some work creating a resource around looking at diversities, what you can do globally, so you're having an effect over all the different slices. So Aboriginal, LGBT, disability, gender. So what kind of policies and things you could put in place as an organization to look at diversity in a more broader sense, and then dig deeper on whatever areas might be actually affecting you, if it's multicultural, newcomers as well in the mix. So yeah, definitely some interesting projects, and so that's been lots of fun, and I'm not working quite full time, that's for sure, but I'm enjoying the projects that I'm getting engaged with.
Karin, I love that you're still focused on the diversity progress. Basically, the progress of diversity, you're still pushing that ball up the hill. Good for you. I love that you're still passionate about what you're doing and passionate about progress in all areas. So thank you so much for being a guest on the show. It's been great chatting with you.
Yeah, super. Thanks for the invite. It was great.
Conversations from the world of women's sports. This is Wisp Sports Radio.
Follow and comment on social media. Twitter is @Wisp Sports. My Twitter is @Miller12Shannon. My Facebook and Instagram is @CoachShannonMiller. My website is CoachShannonMiller.com. Check out the Drills of the Week that I post every Thursday. You can find links in the show notes for this episode at wispsports.com and find more coverage of women's sport. Thank you for supporting women in sport everywhere.